picture this. It's 5 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Right. The classic end of the day.
Yeah. You close your laptop, you put your chair back, and you realize something just deeply unsettling.
Oh, I know this feeling.
Right. Like, you realize you haven't physically moved from that exact spot in about 4 hours.
Yeah.
You haven't lifted anything heavier than, a ceramic coffee mug. Your heart rate hasn't broken 60 beats per minute all afternoon.
Not exactly a workout.
Exactly. But, and here's the thing, behind your eyes, there is this intense, vibrating exhaustion.
It's dizzying.
It really is. It's this completely overwhelming sensation. It honestly feels like your brain has just run a grueling ultramarathon.
You're navigating treacherous terrain.
Yeah, while your physical body just sat there perfectly silently still.
It is a profound, almost localized physical fatigue, isn't it?
Totally.
And, it represents this massive collision between human biology and modern technology, because that feeling directly contradicts the dominant narrative we've been aggressively sold for the last 3 years.
Oh, the utopian narrative.
Right.
I mean, we were promised unequivocally that artificial intelligence was going to be the ultimate labor-saving device.
The great shortcut.
Exactly, the golden ticket to the 4-day work week. We were told we'd be kicking back, letting the algorithms do the heavy lifting.
All the drudgery.
Right, the parsing of data. And we would be spending our afternoons doing deep, meaningful, fulfilling creative work.
Or, frankly, just taking a nap.
Yeah. But instead, if you are listening to this right now, there's a very good chance you are ending your workday feeling more mentally depleted, more scrambled than you did before these tools existed.
It's a glaring paradox.
It really is.
It's basically the defining paradox of the current knowledge work era. And, for a long time, it was just a feeling.
Like people complaining on Twitter.
Exactly. A collective murmuring on social media and in break rooms. But it is finally being meticulously measured and quantified.
Which is why we're here today.
Right. We aren't just guessing anymore. We actually have the data on why our cognitive circuitry is overloading.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because the data we are looking at for this deep dive comes from a massive, really grounding new study from Boston Consulting Group.
Specifically, their BCG Henderson Institute.
Right. And the title of this research paper does not pull any punches. It is literally called When Using AI Leads to Brain Fry.
Brain fry. I love that they didn't use a sanitized corporate euphemism.
No, they went straight for it.
They used the exact visceral term that workers are actually using to describe their reality.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we're going to look at the findings from, I think it's 1,488 full-time U.S.-based workers.
That's right. It's a very robust sample.
Yeah, spanning all levels and all industries. So from entry-level individual contributors writing code or copy,
all the way up to the C-suite.
Right, people making multi-million-dollar decisions. Our mission today is to discover exactly why our brains are seemingly short-circuiting when we interface with these algorithms.
We really need to define the line there.
Yeah, the distinct, measurable line between normal, everyday burnout that we've talked about for decades and this brand new phenomenon of AI brain fry.
And most importantly, we are going to outline the highly specific, data-backed practices that can actually reverse this trend.
Save our sanity, basically.
That's really, yeah. And we're going to approach this by looking beneath the surface symptoms.
Okay.
We really have to look at the root neurobiological causes of this modern workplace epidemic.
Because if we just treat the symptoms,
we will fail. We have to understand the mechanical reality of what is happening in the human brain when it is asked to interface with instantaneous parallel processing machines.
So to really grasp what the BCG study found, I don't think we can start with the abstract data.
No, we need the context.
Right. We have to look at the ground level reality of how early adopters are experiencing this right now. The bleeding edge, basically.
To see where the rest of the workforce is heading.
Exactly. And the study highlights this by pointing to a platform that launched on New Year's Day called Gastown.
Yes, Gastown. It was created by the programmer Steve Yegg.
Yeah.
It's an open source platform, and the foundational concept is just a radical departure from how we traditionally work.
How so?
Well, Gastown is designed to orchestrate entire swarms of Claude Code agents simultaneously.
Okay, stop there for a second, because swarms of agents just sounds like a sci-fi movie.
It does a bit.
For someone listening who isn't, writing software every day, what does that actually mean in practice?
Well, historically, if you used an AI to code, it was a one-to-one relationship. You are the pilot, the AI is the co-pilot.
Right, like I ask a question, it answers.
Exactly. You ask for a function, it writes a function, you review it. It is sequential.
Okay.
Gastown changes the architecture entirely. You aren't employing a copilot anymore. You are unleashing a swarm.
A swarm.
You are deploying multiple autonomous AI agents at the exact same time.
Wow.
So one agent might be writing the core logic, while another is simultaneously building the user interface, and a third is actively debugging the code the first one is writing.
All at once.
All at once. They are assembling software at absolute blistering speeds, operating in parallel.
I mean, it sounds incredibly powerful, but the human reaction to being in the center of that swarm is what really caught my eye in the research.
It wasn't what you'd expect.
No. The study quotes an early user of Gastown, and their takeaway wasn't, oh my gosh, this is magical.
Right.
Their takeaway was, there's really too much going on for you to reasonably comprehend.
Yeah.
They actually described having a palpable sense of stress just watching the terminal window scroll.
Because it was simply moving too fast for human cognition to track.
Yeah, exactly.
See, the bottleneck is no longer the generation of the work.
Right. The AI can generate it instantly.
Exactly. The bottleneck is the human ability to verify and comprehend the work being generated.
It feels like we were promised a self-driving car.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
We were told, hey, just get in, tell the car where you want to go, and you can read a book or watch a movie in the back seat while it handles the traffic.
The dream.
Right. But the reality is that we weren't given a self-driving car. We were suddenly handed the job of an air traffic controller.
Yes.
And we were shoved into a radar tower and told to manage 50 erratic, highly unpredictable drones, all buzzing through the exact same airspace at once.
And you aren't relaxing in the back seat anymore.
No. Your stress levels are through the roof because you are terrified one of them is going to crash.
That is a highly accurate representation of the shift in cognitive load.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
You are no longer navigating a single path. You are responsible for monitoring a vast, highly complex, multidimensional airspace.
Right.
And this leads directly to a phenomenon that Francesco Bonacci, the founder of AI, posted about on X.
Oh, I saw this. His post went totally viral.
Because he put a name to this exact feeling. He called it vibe coding paralysis.
Vibe coding paralysis. I loved that post. Because, vibe coding was supposed to be this breezy future where you just talk to the computer in natural language and it magically builds your app.
But Bonacci said the reality of infinite productivity is literally breaking his brain.
Yeah, he said he ends each day totally exhausted. But the fascinating part to me is that he isn't exhausted from doing the work.
Right.
He is exhausted from managing the work.
Exactly.
He vividly described his screen like having 6 different work trees open, 4 half-written features simultaneously in progress, and 2 quick, supposedly easy AI fixes that suddenly spawn these massive, complex rabbit holes.
And he said he just ends up losing the plot entirely.
Losing the plot.
Losing the plot is the perfect colloquial translation of what is actually happening neurologically.
Really?
Yes. What Bonacci is describing and what the BCG study explicitly identifies is a fundamental structural shift in the nature of human labor.
Okay, how so?
We are rapidly transitioning from being executives of our own tasks to being orchestrators of artificial tasks.
Okay, let's drill down into that.
Yeah.
Executive versus orchestrator. What is the actual functional difference between execution and orchestration?
That shift is the core of the friction. It absolutely is. So when you are engaged in execution, your workflow has a natural biological pacing to it.
Like a rhythm.
Yes. If you are writing a piece of software, or drafting a complex marketing strategy, or auditing a financial report, your brain operates at a specific sequential speed.
Right.
You formulate a thought, you execute the physical action to type it out, you evaluate what you just wrote, and you move to the next logical step.
Right, like it takes time to literally move your fingers across the keyboard.
Precisely. Which gives your brain time to process the thought. It is linear. It is a rhythm your brain evolved to handle.
But orchestration is different.
Orchestration, specifically AI orchestration, removes that physical delay. It is instantaneous and it is parallel.
Okay.
You write one prompt, you hit enter, and suddenly 3 different AI agents return 5 different variations of a highly complex task in 3 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Your brain now has to evaluate, verify, cross-reference, and synthesize all of that parallel competing output simultaneously.
You're just drinking from a fire hose.
Exactly. You are no longer pacing the work. The work is pacing you, and it operates at the speed of computation, not cognition.
And what makes this transition from execution to orchestration so dangerous is that corporate leadership doesn't seem to understand the difference at all.
Not even a little bit.
In fact, they are actively incentivizing the overload. I was honestly floored by the section of the study where they point out how companies are measuring performance right now.
Oh, the token metrics.
Yes, they are actually tracking token consumption as a metric for employee productivity.
Which is, well, for listeners who might not know the term, a token in AI language models is essentially a fragment of a word.
Right.
It basically represents the computational weight of what the AI is processing.
Okay, so if I write a massive prompt and ask the AI to generate a 10-page report, I am consuming a huge number of tokens.
Yes.
And companies are looking at dashboards showing which employees are consuming the most tokens, and they are rewarding them.
They really are.
They are treating the sheer computational weight you spin up as a proxy for quote-unquote hard work.
The study even calls out Meta specifically.
Oh yeah, noting that they include the number of lines of code generated by AI as a performance metric for their engineers.
It is a classic misalignment of incentives.
Totally.
They are rewarding the sheer volume of AI activity rather than the quality or impact of the final product.
It's perverse. I mean, you are literally being graded on how many drones you have flying in your airspace at once, regardless of whether any of them are actually landing safely.
Which explains the stress.
No wonder people are stressed.
Yeah.
You have to keep generating code to hit your metrics, which means you have to keep verifying an ever-growing mountain of automated output.
And that enterprise pressure forces the employee to toggle between an ever-increasing number of tools.
Right, just to keep up.
The juggling, the context switching, the desperate multitasking that becomes the actual job.
Yeah.
The focus, meaningful execution we were promised just vanishes.
So if you are listening right now, just do a quick mental audit of your own week. Think about Monday through Thursday.
Good exercise.
How much time did you actually spend in a state of flow, actively doing a task? Writing, designing, calculating, building.
Versus toggling.
Right. Versus how much time did you spend toggling between different browser tabs, feeding prompts into different AI models, and then painstakingly reading through the output, just trying to verify if the machine actually understood the nuance of what you asked for.
That verification process, that intense, hypervigilant reading and checking that, is the mechanical driver of the exhaustion.
That's the core of it.
And it is leading to a measurable, distinct cognitive state.
Right.
This ground-level feeling of vibe coding paralysis isn't just a collective bad mood. It isn't just people whining about a new software update.
It's real.
The BCG study proves it is a diagnosable condition with distinct parameters.
Which brings us to the formal definition the researchers landed on. They officially diagnosed this as AI brain fry, and they define it very specifically. They call it mental fatigue from excessive use or oversight of AI tools beyond one's cognitive capacity.
Beyond one's cognitive capacity.
That's a scary phrase.
It is the most critical phrase in the entire study. They are stating scientifically that the human brain has a hard, physical limit, and these tools are forcing us past it.
The symptoms the participants described in the study are just wild, and they sound incredibly physical.
They really do.
They aren't just saying, I'm tired. They talk about a literal buzzing feeling inside their head.
A physical buzzing.
Yeah. They describe a thick mental fog that rolls in mid-afternoon. They experience a severe inability to focus on singular tasks, significantly slower decision-making, physical tension headaches.
The headaches were very common.
And this intense, overwhelming urge to physically stand up, walk away from the computer, and stare at a blank wall just to hit a reset button on their nervous system.
Just to shut it all out.
Exactly. There is a quote from a senior engineering manager in the study that I want to read in full because I think it captures the texture of this feeling perfectly.
Please do. The qualitative data in this study is just as important as the quantitative metrics.
Right. It gives it color.
It tells us what is happening inside the black box of the user's mind.
Okay, so here's what the manager said. Quote, I had one tool helping me weigh technical decisions, another spitting out drafts and summaries, and I kept bouncing between them, double-checking every little thing.
Classic orchestration.
Right. Quote continues, but instead of moving faster, my brain just started to feel cluttered. Not physically tired, just crowded.
Crowded.
It was like I had a dozen browser tabs open in my head, all fighting for attention. I caught myself rereading the same stuff, second-guessing way more than usual, and getting weirdly impatient.
And here's the best part of the quote.
Yes, quote, my thinking wasn't broken, just noisy like mental static. What finally snapped me out of it was realizing I was working harder to manage the tools than to actually solve the problem.
My thinking wasn't broken, just noisy.
That's so profound.
It is a brilliant articulation of a complex neurological state. It speaks directly to the signal-to-noise ratio in working memory.
Right.
The capacity to think is still there, but it is being completely drowned out by the sheer volume of competing data streams.
Now, I have to push back on this narrative a little bit because I know what some skeptics listening are thinking.
Okay, let's hear it.
Haven't we always complained about tech fatigue?
Sure.
I mean, 20 years ago, people complained about the barrage of emails. 5 years ago, we were all talking about Slack fatigue and the endless tyranny of Zoom meetings.
Very true.
We've been talking about workplace burnout since the 1970s. So how is this AI brain fry actually any different from the exhaustion of just having a really busy inbox and a demanding boss? Are we just slapping a new label on an old problem?
It is a vital question, and if we get the answer wrong, we will apply the wrong solutions. The researchers draw a very sharp, uncompromising distinction between traditional burnout and this new phenomenon of AI brain fry.
Okay.
They are fundamentally different biological states.
Explain the mechanics of that. If they aren't the same, what separates them?
Let's look at traditional burnout as it has been defined in occupational psychology for decades.
Right.
Burnout is primarily an emotional deficit.
Emotional.
Yes. It is a state of chronic, prolonged workplace stress that hasn't been successfully managed.
Like it builds up over years.
Exactly. It manifests as emotional exhaustion, a deep sense of cynicism or negative feelings toward your job, and a decreased sense of personal accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's that heavy, hollow feeling of, I just don't care anymore, my work is pointless, and I have absolutely zero empathy left to give to my colleagues or clients.
Right. It's an emotional bankruptcy. Basically, your heart is tired.
Exactly. Burnout erodes your emotional resilience. AI brain fry, on the other hand, is not an emotional deficit.
What is it then?
It is acute cognitive strain. Yes. It happens when you marshal your attention, your working memory, and your executive control, the literal physical neurobiological networks in your prefrontal cortex, that process and hold information, and you redline them.
You just max them out.
You push them beyond their physical processing limits.
So if burnout means your heart is tired, brain fry means your RAM is actually maxing out.
Yes.
But let me take that analogy further because I think it fits perfectly.
Go for it.
If it's a RAM issue, it's like what happens to a computer when it runs out of memory and starts, what do they call it, page swapping or thrashing?
Thrashing, yeah.
The computer isn't broken,
Yeah.
but it spends all of its processing power just desperately moving chunks of memory back and forth between the hard drive and the RAM, trying to keep everything open.
Exactly. So it doesn't actually have any power left to execute the commands you are giving it. Everything just freezes.
That is an exceptionally precise analogy. The brain is thrashing.
Wow.
And the BCG study pinpointed the exact activity that causes this cognitive thrashing.
What is it?
It is oversight. Oversight.
Yes. The researchers found that the absolute most mentally taxing form of AI engagement is not prompting the AI, and it is not reading the final output.
Oh, really?
It is the extent to which the tools require direct, continuous monitoring and verification.
Which brings us right back to the air traffic controller in the radar tower.
Yes, because when you are overseeing an AI's output, you are forced into a state of constant high-alert verification.
You can't just relax.
You cannot passively read AI-generated code or text. You have to actively interrogate it.
Right.
Every single sentence, every single line of code demands a background process in your mind. Did the AI hallucinate this statistic?
Does it truly understand the strategic nuance of this campaign?
Exactly. Did fixing this localized bug accidentally break the payment gateway upstream?
You're just constantly paranoid.
Maintaining that level of constant suspicious vigilance drains your executive function incredibly fast. You are essentially treating every piece of information as a potential threat.
It sounds like a severe mental hangover.
It is.
In fact, there is an anecdote in the study from a finance director that shows just how debilitating this physical toll can be.
Oh, I remember this one.
This director was using AI to reframe some ideas and synthesize a large set of financial data. And they said they pushed the oversight so hard that they reached a point where they literally couldn't comprehend if what the AI had created even made sense anymore.
The words lost their meaning.
Yeah. The director said, and I quote, "I just couldn't do anything else and had to revisit the next day when I could think."
Incredible.
They literally broke their own ability to read their own work for the rest of the day.
It is a temporary, localized cognitive failure caused by extreme overload.
Wow.
And if oversight is the mechanical engine driving this brain fry, it forces us to confront a very uncomfortable question about productivity.
Okay.
The entire corporate mandate right now is based on a simple equation. More AI tools equals more output, which equals more productivity.
Right, that's what everyone assumes.
But if oversight breaks the human brain, does that equation actually hold up?
Well, if individual workers are crashing this hard, we have to look at the math.
We do.
The data the study provides on this is honestly shocking, and it completely disrupts the more is better narrative.
It really does.
The researchers measured how different degrees of AI oversight affect our mental state on the job. They found that workers who are forced into high degrees of AI oversight, meaning they are doing a lot of that constant high alert monitoring, experienced a 14% increase in mental effort required to do their jobs.
A 14% daily increase in raw cognitive friction is a massive tax to pay over the course of a fiscal year.
And it cascades.
Right.
That high oversight also directly led to 12% more mental fatigue at the end of the day, and a massive 19% greater feeling of information overload. That sensation of just drowning in a sea of synthesized data.
Exactly.
But here is where this study gets incredibly specific. The researchers didn't just measure general feelings. They tracked self-reported productivity based on the exact, specific number of AI tools a person was using simultaneously.
And they plotted it on a line chart.
Yes, rating productivity on a scale of 1 to 5.
And the shape of that curve is one of the most revealing insights we have into the hard limits of human cognition.
Let's walk through the curve.
Okay.
If you integrate one AI tool into your workflow, your productivity score sits at a solid 3.3 out of 5.
You are getting a benefit.
You are. If you add a second tool, maybe you have an AI writing copy while another analyzes the spreadsheet, your productivity climbs to a 3.8.
You are demonstrably faster.
If you manage to juggle 3 AI tools simultaneously, you hit the absolute peak of the mountain. You score a 4.1 on the productivity scale.
So to be clear, up to 3 tools, the utopian promise of AI holds true.
It works.
You are achieving a compounding synergistic benefit from the technology.
Exactly. The promise is real, up to a point.
Up to a point.
But then comes the cliff. The data shows that the moment you introduce a 4th AI tool into your simultaneous workflow, or anything more than 4, your productivity doesn't just plateau.
It doesn't just level off.
No, it actively falls backwards. It plummets back down to a 3.7.
It is the magic number of tools. 3 is the absolute threshold.
It makes total sense if you think about the physical act of juggling.
Oh, yeah?
If you are juggling 3 balls, you can establish a rhythm. It takes focus, yes, but once you lock into the cadence, you can maintain it indefinitely.
Your eyes can track the apex of 3 distinct arcs.
But the moment someone tosses a 4th ball into the mix, you don't just fail to catch the new ball.
No.
The introduction of the 4th variable shatters the entire rhythm, your attention fractures, and you drop all of the balls. The entire system collapses onto the floor.
The juggling metaphor perfectly illustrates why multitasking is a neurobiological myth and why it is notoriously unproductive.
We just can't do it.
Our prefrontal cortex is simply not designed for parallel processing of complex, novel information streams. We can only process sequentially.
Right.
When you add that 4th AI tool, you are vastly expanding what organizational psychologists call your sphere of accountability.
Sphere of accountability, meaning the total circumference of things I am personally responsible for making sure don't blow up in my face.
Yes. When you combine high AI oversight with an increased volume of automated tasks, which is exactly what happens when you try to manage 4 or 5 agents at once, you are forcing your brain to pay attention to more potential outcomes.
Or potential errors.
Yes, in the exact same amount of time. You are trying to track the trajectory of 4 different moving objects and independently verify their safe landing points simultaneously.
That's impossible.
The working memory buffer overflows, the thrashing begins, and as your juggling analogy points out, everything drops.
Everything drops.
The quality of all 4 tasks degrades simultaneously.
So we have isolated the mechanism. It is high alert oversight. And we have established the hard threshold. It is 3 simultaneous tools.
Yeah.
The system breaks at 4.
Right.
So if we look out across the modern corporate landscape, who is actually crossing that threshold? Who is frying their brains the most right now?
This is fascinating.
Because I went into this study with some strong assumptions about who works the hardest, and the data completely subverted them.
The demographic breakdown in this study is fascinating, precisely because it forces us to reevaluate our assumptions about which types of cognitive labor are actually the most taxing when combined with AI.
So let's lay out the baseline first so we have context.
Okay.
The researchers asked participants, crucially, at the very end of the survey, so they didn't prime them to overthink it, if they had personally experienced this specific AI brain fry.
Smart methodology.
Across the board, 14% of participants who use AI for work said yes, they have absolutely experienced this state of cognitive overload.
14% is a highly significant portion of the workforce dealing with acute cognitive strain on a daily basis.
It's huge.
But that average marks massive, revealing disparities between different departments and roles.
Huge disparities. When you look at the breakdown of that role, marketing professionals are at the absolute top of the brain fry list. A staggering 26% of marketing professionals report experiencing AI brain fry, over a quarter of the entire department.
Wow.
Then you drop down to human resources at 19%, operations at 18%, engineering at 18%, and finance at 17%.
And we must contrast those highly fried departments with the roles that are experiencing the least friction.
Right. At the very bottom of the list, coasting relatively smoothly, you have product management at 9%, management and leadership at 9%, and finally at the absolute bottom, legal and compliance at just 6%.
6% in legal versus 26% in marketing.
I know.
That is a massive fourfold gap that demands explanation.
Okay, I have to play out my thought process here because I read that and was genuinely confused.
Most people would be.
I would have bet real money that legal and compliance would be at the very top of the brain fry list.
Sure, the reading volume.
Right. Lawyers, compliance officers, risk analysts, their entire job is intensely reading, verifying, cross-referencing massive, dense, complex documents.
Very intense oversight.
That sounds like the textbook definition of intense, high-alert oversight. Why on earth is a marketer trying to sell sneakers 4 times more likely to fry their brain than a corporate lawyer reviewing a merger?
It is a brilliant question, and answering it requires us to synthesize the data about how these different professions use the tools rather than just how much they use them.
Yeah.
We have to look at the structural nature of the tasks. The data suggests that the massive difference in cognitive strain lies in the distinction between generative, open-ended tasks versus bounded search and retrieval tasks.
Walk me through that. Let's role play this. What does the marketer's AI workflow look like inside their head compared to the lawyer's?
Think about a marketing professional or perhaps someone in HR trying to write a delicate internal communication about a policy change.
Okay.
They're engaged in generative ideation. They face the blank page effect. So the marketer prompts the AI, generate a campaign concept for Gen Z consumers.
Right. Very open-ended.
The AI instantly spits out 5 highly varied options. The marketer must read all 5, synthesize the different approaches, evaluate the subjective tone of each, and then initiate an intense, iterative, back-and-forth prompting cycle.
Like tweaking it.
Exactly. They type, make option 2 punchier, combine the humor of option 3 with the structure of option 4, but change the tone to be slightly more irreverent.
Okay, I see where this is going.
The AI responds instantly. The marketer evaluates again. It is an endless, rapid-fire, high-frequency cycle of creation, subjective evaluation, and immediate tweaking.
And that rapid-fire iteration is exactly what causes that buzzing feeling the participants described.
Yes.
It is the constant, aggressive task switching between the role of creative prompter and critical evaluator.
Right, exactly. You are constantly spinning up and tearing down neural networks to judge subjective quality.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. Now compare that mental loop to a professional in legal compliance. A lawyer is primarily using AI for bounded search and retrieval or structured summarization.
Give me an example.
They prompt the AI, find all contracts in this 5,000 document database that contain this specific indemnification clause regarding intellectual property.
Okay.
Or summarize the key financial dates in this 400-page merger agreement. The AI performs a highly specific, bounded, objective task. The lawyer then reviews the output.
And the oversight is still intense, because if the lawyer misses a mistake, the company gets sued.
Yes, the demand for accuracy is paramount. However, the intensity of the task switching and the open-ended, subjective nature of the prompting is much, much lower.
Because it's a binary yes or no.
Right. The lawyer asks a specific question, gets a specific answer, and verifies it. The marketer is caught in an infinite loop of subjective generation.
So it's not just the sheer volume of reading that fries your RAM. It is the intensity of the subjective oversight combined with the constant, rapid task switching of generative work.
Precisely. That is the recipe for having a dozen browser tabs open in your head.
Wow.
Now, having established the profound personal toll this takes on the individual worker, we have to shift our perspective.
To the company level.
Right. If individual workers are crashing this hard, it's impossible that the organization itself isn't feeling the tremors.
Of course.
Why should the C-suite, who might just be looking at token consumption dashboards and cheering, view AI brain fry as an urgent, existential, structural threat to their company?
Because right now, leadership probably thinks, hey, if my marketers are working so fast their brands hurt, we must be getting incredible ROI.
They probably do.
But the BCG study outlines the actual structural damage this causes to a company, and the hidden business costs are frankly terrifying.
Let's look at the first massive crack in the foundation.
Decision fatigue.
Yes, decision fatigue. It is a well-documented psychological phenomenon. It dictates that the quality of your reasoning inevitably deteriorates after a long, continuous session of decision-making.
You just get tired.
Your brain simply runs out of glucose and willpower. And the study found a direct measurable link between AI brain fry and this deterioration.
A massive link. The data shows that victims of AI brain fry experience 33% more decision fatigue than their non-fried colleagues.
33%.
A 33% drop in their ability to make a sound judgment. And the researchers went a step further and actually put a dollar amount on what that cognitive decline means for an enterprise.
This is where it gets real for the C-suite.
Exactly. They cite previous research estimating that suboptimal, delayed, or rushed decision-making can cost a typical $5 billion firm roughly $150 million every single year.
Stop and run that math in your head.
It's crazy.
If standard, everyday suboptimal decisions are already bleeding a firm for $150 million, and your most active AI users are suddenly experiencing a 33% spike in decision fatigue.
You are talking about millions, potentially tens of millions of dollars in completely unforced errors, lost revenue, and blown strategies, simply because your team's brains are too fundamentally exhausted to make a good call at 4 p.m.
Exactly. The cognitive strain silently rots the bottom line through poor judgment.
Yeah.
But the damage isn't just strategic. It manifests in a much more immediate, highly tangible, highly dangerous way: the error rate.
Yes, the sheer volume of mistakes. The study tracked both minor and major errors to see how brain fry impacts output quality.
And the results are stark.
Really stark.
Yeah.
If you are experiencing AI brain fry, your rate of making minor errors, things like weird formatting issues, typos, or small, easily fixable coding bugs, goes up by 11%.
Which is annoying.
Right, it's annoying, it slows things down, but
Yeah.
it probably won't sink the company. But the major errors,
This is the critical existential statistic of the entire report.
AI brain fry leads to a staggering 39% increase in major errors.
39%.
And the study defines a major error very clearly. These are mistakes with serious, lasting consequences for safety, project outcomes, or critical financial decisions. A 39% spike in catastrophic mistakes.
And we have to ask why major errors spike so much more dramatically than minor ones. Why 39% versus 11%?
Why is that? I mean, I would think sloppy work is just sloppy work across the board.
Because of the specific nature of what brain fry destroys. As we established, oversight drains executive function.
Right.
Executive function is the part of your brain responsible for maintaining macro-level context. When your working memory is overloaded by orchestrating 3 different AI agents, your vision narrows.
You have tunnel vision.
You become hyper-focused on the micro. You successfully catch the missing comma or the localized logic error in the code, the minor error.
Right.
But because your macro context is offline, you completely fail to realize that the fundamental strategy of the campaign is flawed, or that the localized code fix you just approved will cause the entire database server to crash when it deploys.
Oh, wow.
You lose the forest because you are exhausted from interrogating the trees.
That makes total sense. You are so busy verifying the spelling that you don't realize the document is a confession. And the final hidden cost makes this even worse because it deals with who is making these errors.
The talent pool.
Yes. The study points out a very uncomfortable truth for leadership. The people who are using AI with the highest intensity, the ones pushing the boundaries of these swarms and agents, and as a result, suffering the absolute highest rates of brain fry, are very often a company's superstars.
The high achievers,
These are your top performers, your most eager innovators, the people you rely on most.
which leads directly to the third hidden cost, the exodus.
Yep.
Because these superstars are looking at their 39% increase in major errors, feeling the buzzing in their heads, and they are actively looking for the exit.
The flight risk data is crystal clear. Among workers who did not report experiencing AI brain fry, 25% showed an active intent to quit their current jobs within the next year.
That's a normal baseline turnover rate.
Exactly. But among those who did report being in a state of brain fry, that active intent to leave jumped to 34%.
Which represents a 39% relative increase in the flight risk of your absolute top talent.
So what does this all mean when you piece the puzzle together?
It's a grim picture.
Companies are aggressively pushing AI adoption, tracking token consumption, and demanding massive increases in output to save money.
Right.
But behind the curtain, this strategy is causing them to secretly bleed tens of millions of dollars in undetected major errors, horribly suboptimal strategic decisions, and the staggering, quiet cost of recruiting, hiring, and onboarding replacements for their absolute best employees when they inevitably burn out and quit.
It is a catastrophic systemic misalignment of incentives.
It really is.
By rewarding the sheer volume of AI activity and mandating an impossible level of cognitive oversight, organizations are inadvertently engineering the exact biological conditions that guarantee low-quality work and high turnover.
It's corporate self-sabotage.
Yeah.
They're literally paying their best employees to fry their own brains, make massive structural mistakes, and then leave for a competitor.
It sounds absurd when laid out so plainly, but that is precisely the reality the data exposes.
Wow.
Which forces us to pause and ask a fundamental philosophical question about the technology itself.
Okay, what's that?
Is AI inherently toxic to the human brain? Are we simply biologically incompatible with instantaneous parallel processing?
I mean, it sounds like we might be.
Or is there a specific way to utilize this technology that actually heals our mental state rather than destroying it?
And thankfully, the BCG study does offer a lifeline here. It's not all doom and gloom.
Right.
They looked at specific workflow scenarios where AI actually reduces burnout.
The twist in the data. And it is a powerful one.
Yes, the twist. The researchers discovered that when AI is used specifically and deliberately to substantially reduce the amount of time an employee spends on routine, repetitive tasks, their burnout scores are actually 15% lower than colleagues who don't use AI in that way.
A 15% absolute reduction in burnout is a massive, incredibly significant gain in organizational health.
It's huge.
And the researchers tie this benefit to a very specific concept, the elimination of toil.
Toil. Just hearing the word makes my shoulders slump.
It's a great word for it.
The study describes toil as those deeply unpleasant, unenjoyable, soul-sucking administrative duties. The grunt work.
Yes.
Data entry, formatting spreadsheets, scheduling nightmare meetings. The data shows that when people successfully use AI to offload that specific toil, everything in their professional life gets better.
Everything.
They report significantly higher work engagement. They have vastly more intrinsic motivation. They actually develop highly positive emotional associations with the AI tools themselves.
They view the AI as a savior, not a taskmaster.
Exactly.
And perhaps most crucially for long-term health, they report a significant increase in social connection with their peers.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because the machine is handling the isolating drudgery, the human worker spends more time off keyboard. They have the energy to collaborate, to talk, to build relationships.
Okay, but this brings up a huge glaring question for me.
Let's hear it.
If replacing routine tasks with AI reliably lowers burnout by 15%, why aren't we just doing that across the board? Why isn't every single company mandate simply use AI to eliminate toil? Why do so many of us end up tumbling into the brain fry zone instead of the reduced burnout zone?
Because of a deeply ingrained managerial reflex that I call the trap of the backfill.
Trap of the backfill.
We have to draw a strict, unyielding boundary here between emotional restoration and cognitive oversight.
Okay.
When a worker uses AI to eliminate toil, they successfully remove an emotional drain. They free up space, both actual time on the clock and raw mental energy for creative, joyful, deeply meaningful human tasks.
Right.
That is the mechanical process of curing burnout.
You buy back your time to do the work you actually like.
Precisely. But the traditional corporate instinct, inherited from 19th century factory management, is utterly abhorrent of a vacuum.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Managers are terrified of idle time. When a brilliant knowledge worker uses AI to automate 3 hours of daily administrative drudgery, the immediate reflex of the organization is not, "Wonderful, please use those 3 recovered hours to think deeply about our 5-year strategy or to mentor a junior colleague."
No way.
The reflex is, "Great, your plate is clear, you have 3 free hours. Here are 3 new, highly complex AI agents for you to orchestrate."
The backfill. They immediately punish the efficiency by filling the saved time with dense oversight work.
Exactly. And the moment the manager does that, they have completely erased the burnout cure.
Poof, gone.
They have taken the emotional bandwidth the employee just recovered and crushed it under an acute cognitive strain. They successfully cured the burnout and immediately replaced it with brain fry.
Wow, so the line between using AI to heal your workforce and using it to systematically break them is incredibly dangerously thin.
It all comes down to what the organization demands you do with the time you save.
Which means we really need to pivot and talk about management and culture.
Yes, the leadership playbook.
How do leaders, teams, and whole organizations engineer the right environment so we don't fall into this backfill trap?
Well, the study concludes with very clear, actionable steps. Because, as the data definitively proves, an employee's experience with AI isn't just about their individual prompting skills or their personal resilience.
Right.
It is heavily, almost entirely, influenced by the organizational environment they operate within. Let's look at the micro level first, the direct manager.
This statistic blew my mind because it shows how much power a middle manager really has.
They hold the keys.
The data shows that managers who actually take the time to answer their team's questions about AI, managers who roll up their sleeves, get in the trenches, and help their direct reports figure out how to structure these new workflows, they lower their team's mental fatigue by 15%.
15% just from being helpful.
But managers who just buy the enterprise license, drop the tools onto their team's laptops, and say, "Figure it out on your own, I want 20% more output by Friday," they create what the researchers brilliantly call an AI orphan tax.
The AI orphan tax. It is a devastatingly accurate term.
It results in a measurable 5% increase in baseline mental fatigue for those abandoned employees before they even start doing the work.
And that dynamic scales up to the team level as well.
How so?
The researchers found that when there is unstructured peer pressure to use AI, when an employee feels like they have to use it just to keep up with their colleagues, but there is no formalized system or shared best practices, overall fatigue increases.
Because everyone's just guessing.
The uncertainty breeds anxiety. However, when a team engages in collective, organized, deliberate integration of AI into their shared processes, the mental strain actually decreases.
So doing it together with a clear, agreed-upon plan physically protects your brain.
Yes.
But it's the macro-organizational level that really dictates the overall culture. The researchers looked closely at the implicit, unspoken messages that companies send to their employees about AI.
Those implicit signals dictate behavior far more than any official memo.
They really do. The data shows that when companies do a poor, ambiguous job communicating about AI's ultimate role in the organization, if employees are secretly wondering, is this tool going to replace me in 6 months? Mental fatigue spikes by 12%.
Just the ambient ambiguity causes cognitive load.
Yeah. On the flip side, when employees genuinely feel that their organization values their work-life balance above raw output, their AI-related mental fatigue drops by a massive 28%.
28%. That is the single largest variable we have discussed in this entire deep dive.
It's massive.
It decisively proves that the cultural context surrounding the tool is vastly more impactful on human health than the capabilities of the tool itself.
The study also calls out a specific, highly dangerous linguistic trend happening in HR departments right now. They strongly warn against labeling individual contributors as managers of agents.
Yes, because words structure reality.
They do.
When you officially title a human being a manager of agents, you are implicitly and dangerously expanding their perceived scope of responsibility.
Right.
You are telling their neurobiology that they are now legally and functionally accountable for an entire phantom workforce of autonomous machines.
It is so profoundly unfair. It is unfair to drop a revolutionary, incredibly complex, constantly shifting technology onto an employee's lap, give them zero formal training, slap the title manager of agents on them, and then implicitly say, "Figure this out on your weekends. And by the way, we expect your output to increase by 50% immediately."
This raises an important question, and I would argue it is the defining question for the future of knowledge work.
Okay.
How do we as a society and as corporate entities value human attention?
Well, that's a deep.
The BCG researchers argue forcefully that organizations must undergo a holistic, ground-up redesign of work itself. We have spent the last 100 years meticulously defining spans of control for human-to-human management.
Right.
Every MBA program teaches that a human manager can realistically only oversee 5 to 7 direct reports effectively before the team breaks down.
Right. HR has entire libraries of textbooks dedicated to optimizing that specific ratio.
But we currently have absolutely zero established norms or guardrails for human plus agent oversight.
We just pretend it's infinite.
We are acting as if human capacity is infinite. We need to define hard limits. As we discussed earlier, the empirical data suggests the limit for high-alert orchestration is around 3 simultaneous tools.
A magic number.
Organizations have to start treating human attention as a finite, incredibly precious, easily depletable resource, not as an infinitely scalable cloud server.
The researchers wrap up the study with this fantastic grounding conclusion. They state that 70% of any corporate AI transformation effort should be strictly devoted to the people and the processes, and only 30% to the technology itself.
Exactly. The tech is the easy part.
Yeah.
The hard part is shifting the performance metrics away from raw intensity and token consumption and toward actual verified impact.
Right.
And finally, there is a clear mandate in the data for massive skill development. And I don't mean technical prompting skills, I mean deeply human skills.
Right. They point out that even the most advanced, technically proficient AI users eventually hit a hard ceiling unless they actively develop new human capabilities like problem framing, complex analysis planning, and rigorous strategic prioritization.
Right.
Basically, as the AI gets better at giving you answers, you have to become vastly better at knowing exactly what questions to ask and why you are asking them in the first place.
Precisely. Which brings our analysis full circle. Artificial intelligence is undeniably the most powerful cognitive amplifier humanity has ever created.
But if you treat your own biological brain as an infinite, tireless orchestration machine, you are guaranteed to fry your neurobiological circuits.
Guaranteed.
So, to recap the vital takeaways we've unpacked for you today, the hard mechanical limit for your working memory is juggling roughly 3 simultaneous AI tools.
Anything more is a drop-off.
The true danger, the specific activity that drains your executive function and causes major errors to spike by 39%, is constant high-alert verification and oversight.
Managing the swarm.
Yes. And the way to actually achieve the promised utopia is to deliberately use AI to eliminate the miserable repetitive toil in your day without letting your manager immediately backfill that saved time with more noisy, demanding, multi-agent orchestration tasks.
The ultimate lesson hidden in this data is the immense value of human discernment.
Yeah.
These tools make it frictionlessly easy to generate endless variations, endless drafts, endless iterations. But the data proves that just because you can iterate with AI at a near zero marginal cost does not mean you should.
So bringing it all back down to you, the listener, think back to that dizzying, vibrating 5 p.m. exhaustion we talked about at the very beginning of the show.
That brain fry.
Tonight, when you finally close your laptop, push back your chair, and log off, I want you to ask yourself this one question. In an age of infinite, instant, overwhelmingly noisy artificial intelligence, is your ability to simply sit quietly and focus your unassisted, unbroken attention on one single meaningful thing, rapidly becoming your single most valuable professional asset?